I'm Christy Hemingway, host of Ed Curation, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Support for today's episode comes from the Institute for Education Innovation and the 2023 Soup's Choice Awards, the only education industry awards judged exclusively by school district superintendents. Coming up on episode 228 of the House of EdTech podcast, I am talking with Josh Swartz and William Illingworth from the HiTech podcast. They're members of the network, and we got to catch up face-to-face at ISTE. Let's strike up the band. Welcome to the House of EdTech. My name is Chris Nessie. The House of EdTech launched in 2014, giving me the opportunity to speak with teachers, leaders, and creators so you can more effectively integrate technology, strengthen your pedagogy, and have more confidence in your classroom and school so you can make an impact. Get involved with the podcast by visiting my website, chrisnessie.com. Using technology isn't difficult, and this is where it begins. This is the House of EdTech. And we are flying high here at the end of July. It's almost time for an AJ, my co-host on Podcast PD, depressed me the other day when he said and reminded me that August is like the ultimate Sunday in the world of education, especially for those of you who are like me and you start school in September. If you have started school already, well, hey, welcome to the new school year. I don't go back until after Labor Day. That's life in New Jersey. But speaking of when things were good, went to ISTE in 2023 and had a lot of great conversations. And this episode continues this, I guess, mini-series of these great conversations I had at ISTE Live back in June of 2023. And this episode, as I said at the top, I spoke to Josh Swartz and William Illingworth from the HiTech podcast. And their podcast is another EdTech podcast, but they approach EdTech from a different lens and another perspective. They both have had really good careers in higher education, and we talk a little pedagogy, we talk a little EdTech, of course, we talk a little podcasting, and I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation and get a lot of value. And I want to stress, and I mentioned it a couple times in the conversation, you got to go and check out their podcast. Go to edupodcastnetwork.com. Their show is a part of the network. You can listen, you can subscribe, and I will include a link in the show notes to their website as well. So make sure you check out the HiTech podcast with Josh Swartz and William Illingworth. And before I click rewind and pull up their conversation that I had with them, want to remind you, in case for some reason you didn't listen to all of episode 227, I wrote that book that I've been talking about for quite some time about podcasting, and it's called I Like to Podcast, and You Will Too, A House of EdTech Guide to Podcasting. You can check it out at chrisnessie.com/I Like to Podcast, and that'll take you over to the Amazon page. You can get the book physically, or as of August 16th, which is after I'm recording this episode, but, depending on when you're listening to this, as of August 16th, 2023, you can also get it for your Kindle. And the only other thing I can say is that it also pairs well with the Pod Journal, which you can find at thepodjournal.com. If you're ready to launch that podcast and you need another something to help you plan those episodes and you like to handwrite stuff, the Pod Journal will help you out. But beyond that, I am just very excited about the book I Like to Podcast, and you will too. And if you pick up the book, please rate it, review it on Amazon. Would love to see it, climb the rankings and be a valuable resource. And if you have no interest in podcasting in education, this guide will help you do it either, for yourself, or if you want to use some of what I talk about in the guide with students and share it with students and make it a resource in your school or your classroom, you can certainly do that as well. And again, go to chrisnessie.com/I Like to Podcast. And now let us rewind the clock, rewind the audio, and let's go back to ISTE 2023 and my conversation with Josh Swartz and William Illingworth. I am joined by William Illingworth and Josh Swartz from the HiTech Podcast.
That's it.
Yep, you got it.
They're here.
Yeah, we are here. Hey.
This is one of those things where we showed up and we're just like, no high expectations except to be the HiTech Podcast. We just want to make sure we're here. We're present. We shake some hands, say hello.
The fact that we're recording shows you had low expectations.
Love it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, these are our faces for radio, so it's just...
That's why we're only doing audio, boys.
Yeah.
I'm the leader of that tribe.
Yeah. We switched over to video, and now I always feel like we have to care exactly how we look. So
I asked him if he's worn that shirt recently.
Yeah. There's only been like 5 episodes where it's been the same shirt. I promise I change clothes in between the times we record.
I noticed that I do a summer course at Rutgers, and it's on Zoom once a week now for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that like every Tuesday I happen to be wearing the same, or I go to throw on the same polo
it's
shirt.
in that cycle, right?
Yeah.
I can't. Anyway, we're not here to talk about fashion because look at all of us anyway. Although you got the bow tie.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's
You guys
that?
have,
Orange?
we're in Philly, but you guys have like beads and disco balls. What's going on?
We
This is
were
swag.
at Soundtrap, and they gave us some
Soundtrap.
Fun,
Yeah, Soundtrap for
some fun
education.
stuff.
They're putting that the podcasting in the hands of teachers so that teachers can be working with students in a safe environment. This is not an ad for them. Sorry.
Not a sponsor. That's cool.
Right?
That's cool.
But no, it was one of those things. We actually tried it out for our own purposes once. We came into some issues, and I was literally went out to them and was like, hey, by the way, we tried this once. Didn't work. Why not?
That's my same story.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're like, oh, well,
Soundtrap, not a fan. Sorry, don't apologize.
for the education stuff, they actually have it set to only record 15 minutes at a time. They were trying to keep it small and bite-sized with students. And
Let's be honest, we want students talking for more than 15 minutes at a clip.
You said it, not me,
Yeah.
but also
I mean,
me.
it's the truth. I had a friend who did a class where he had a podcast project at the end, and he planned it out. It was really good. He was super excited. But he told me, he was like, okay, I'm going to have him do like an hour episode a week. And I was like, a week?
Had this person never worked with children before?
He had 24 students in the class. And like within the first week was like, oh man, I got to go listen to 24 hours worth of podcasts. I was like, I know, the math was easy. You probably could have figured that out pre-course starting.
He was listening to it in the car, listening to it in the shower, listening to it as he slept, listening to them in 2 times speed to just try and get through all the episodes.
That is the beautiful part about audio. Like if somebody responds to a question in writing, I've got to read that. I only read at 1 speed. Okay? I can speed up audio. I can speed up flip videos.
Exactly.
Right? Although flip makes you sound like a chipmunk. Podcasts I can deal with.
Yeah.
Try and stay away from chipmunk language.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to put this train back on the tracks. So you guys host your podcast. It's also about education and technology. So what is it about besides that? Because again, we kind of talk about EdTech from 2 different perspectives and 2 different ways. What is your angle?
We are first coming from it from that higher education space, right? K-12 is a pretty, I don't say this in a negative way, but it's pretty saturated. There's lots of K-12 focused podcasts. We, at the time, were both coming out of higher education. I've moved on to corporate. That's the secret, sorry. But I came from that space. I spent 7.5, 8 years in it, and I really understand. I love that. And so one of the things we try and bring to that conversation is just like, hey, if we've got tools like Seesaw, right, very child or elementary focused, like, is there an application for that functionally for a higher age range? They're designed visually to be younger, but there's nothing wrong with that if it does the tool, if it hits the pedagogical purpose. So we pair every single episode with a pedagogical or instructional thrust or point and an app. Every episode is kind of split 50-50, and we really try and look at it that way. So it's not just EdTech. We're coming from the pedagogy. We're trying to focus on that. And then there's also something we want to try and lift up and give, I guess, a box to a tool that might be useful for higher ed instructors. But hey, does that go down to K-12? We're never against speaking with K-12 instructors who might want to use our tools or ideas as well.
I kind of do something similar, but the opposite. So obviously being a high school teacher, there are tools that I see in the K-12 space that I bring to what I do at the college level.
Yeah.
Like I got rid of written discussion boards and I have my college students do flip.
I'm clapping.
Again, because I listen and watch at multiple high speeds. So BookCreator.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You
We're hearing
can
about
get
this one.
little tiny children to use BookCreator. I made BookCreator a part of a final project in a college course where the students, instead of doing you guys see this in higher ed all the time, and so do I, the dreaded group presentation at a college or university, where there's always that one group that screws the whole thing up and there's always that one person who never responds. Instead of doing another mundane presentation on Google Slides, PowerPoint, make an ebook.
Yeah.
Now you empower college kids to do that. You're not just leaving the course with a presentation, you're an author.
Yeah.
And then I can talk, hey, you could sell your book. So, we have different conversations. But
A powerful thing about that, though, Chris, is that it brings in storytelling to presentations. Very often, students get into the group project, the group presentation, they're like, okay, I just have to stand up and read the slides and get through slide 1 through. If you tell them to write a book, there's already this assumption of a story, a start, a middle, and an end. Like, I want you to get me through something. And that's one of those things where, again, I think if we look at that pedagogy, sure, the tech tool could be anything from Google Slides to BookCreator, but the pedagogical point is teach me something, walk me through something, instruct me, make me feel something, right? Whatever you want the student to do. Yeah. And now they have this space and a tool that's cultivating that for them. Those are the nexus of our conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's what we try to do in the HiTech podcast is like we've discovered like you would be a faculty member I would love to work with because you're generating ideas, you're working on things. We found very quickly. So my background, as I've shared on our podcast, is I came in and took Will's old job from a background with no EdTech experience other than I knew how to use technology and I had done some TAing and teaching. And we couldn't find anything on specifically from higher ed how to use technology creatively, a little bit different than just the general paper or LMS usage that I was seeing in higher ed.
But see, here's the thing. There's a big difference between teaching and being higher ed faculty.
Oh, yeah.
I sell my students on the idea of, I'm a teacher. Yeah. I didn't write the book that you have to buy, if I make you buy a book at all. Right. I'm not here to do research on you. I'm a teacher. And some of the feedback I get is, this class seems almost a little like it's high school. Well, okay, but you enjoyed high school, right? You had fun. So coming at it from the perspective of somebody who knows how to teach, and I'm just not a master in my content that I am teaching, that's two different things. So I know you definitely see that, and that's probably 100%. Why you're not seeing the creativity.
Oh, yeah, because we get a ton of professors and faculty who I love. They have a ton of expertise in their area, but they don't have any experience teaching. And so Will and I have both worked in environments where we're helping them do instructional design, and we're helping them design courses, and we're trying to help them see what teaching actually looks like, what learning theory looks like, pedagogy looks like. And so I think that's why our podcast has kind of taken this meld of presenting apps, but also having a lot of conversations about how to design content and how to look at content and how to design learning experiences. Because we see that need so much in higher ed where there's this hole in faculty where it's like, if they've been teaching for years, they eventually start to pick it up after some time, but we get a lot of faculty who don't know that. And so that was kind of why we went our direction. We're trying to help faculty see there are creative ways you can do this. There are ways that you can design a course or activity or whatever you're doing for learning, not just to present content or have students regurgitate that content to you. And there's plenty of apps and tools out there that can help you do something way different than you ever thought you could before. And I think that's what makes us really excited about our thing is always harnessing technology. That's our idea. We want to help faculty be able to harness that tech to be able to get to better learning experiences for the students in a way that we don't see a ton in higher ed. And I think it's a worthy conversation.
Chris, a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever been told that you're someone's favorite teacher?
Absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
Love it. That's gas in the tank any day of the week.
I think about that often, like who's my favorite teacher? And listener, I hope you're thinking of that too. There's probably someone coming to mind as we're discussing this. One of the things that's motivated my career was an activity where I was told in a class, go interview your favorite teacher on campus. And I remember sitting down with him. I was very excited. He took the time. He sat in his office with me and he said, Murray, what's going on? What are you doing? I was like, here's the activity I have to do. Here's my prompt, blah, 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 blah. And the first question I asked is like, so how did you learn to teach? You're my favorite teacher. You have, a way of being in class, right? You have a presence, your instruction, your content is interesting. I was like, you are my favorite teacher for reasons. How did you learn how to teach? He said, I don't know. I never learned how to teach. I just have grace and I love what I do. And I was like,
I might have a similar answer to that.
Wow. Right?
Because I look at it like this. There is the science of teaching and there's the art of teaching.
Yes.
From my perspective, the science is your content area, the subject matter that you will teach. The art of teaching is how you do that. And anybody can come fight me on this. I don't think you can teach the art of teaching. You can't learn that from a book. It's the intangibles. You know, if I bring it to sports, it's Derek Jeter. Was he the greatest shortstop ever? No, but he had the intangible. Things that you can't quantify with statistics. But he was in the right place at the right time, making the play. Similarly, I'm not the Derek Jeter of teaching. I was once told you're like the Willy Wonka of teaching.
Okay.
And not the Johnny Depp. Like the Willy Wonka.
I was going to say, you got the good one.
And not the potentially like whisking children away into the dark one. Like this is the good one with all the happy candy and good times.
Yes, absolutely. Because like you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes I walk into a classroom, high school, college, I don't know what's going to happen when the bell rings or what I'm going to say. I don't know where I was going with that. What's going on, you EdTech enthusiast, you? Are you ready to make a real impact in the world of education? Well, I've got some exciting news for you. It's that time of year again. The Institute for Education Innovation is back with the 2023 Soup's Choice Awards, the education industry's most prestigious recognition of excellence in EdTech. What sets the Soup's Choice Awards apart is that it's the only education award judged exclusively by school district superintendents. These are visionary leaders who are at the forefront of driving innovation and positive change in education. And this is your chance to shine and get your groundbreaking product or EdTech solution in front of the nation's most innovative superintendents. The process is simple. Superintendents will carefully evaluate and recognize the best in each category. Imagine getting valuable feedback from these top education experts. It will be a game changer for your product's success. And don't worry about breaking the bank. The Soup's Choice Awards offers a low-cost opportunity to showcase your innovations to an audience that truly matters. But the clock is ticking, my friends. The deadline to enter is just around the corner, August 24th. Now let me highlight some of the exciting award categories for 2023. They're offering the AI-powered education solution, best gamification in learning, and excellence in special education, just to name a few. Whether your focus is on college and career readiness, family engagement, or keeping kids safe, there's a category for you to shine. So what are you waiting for? This is your moment to make a difference and impact in the lives of students and educators across the nation. Head over to the website soupschoice.com right now to learn more and enter the Soup's Choice Awards. Together, let's shape the future of education one innovative solution at a time. And don't miss the deadline, August 24th. And hopefully, we'll see you at the Soup's Choice Awards later this year. And thank you to the Institute for Education Innovation for supporting the House of EdTech. And now, back to the show.
No, that's all right.
Well, I think there's something to that, like the experience of teaching and doing it. What you're getting at is just that art part of it that you start to learn as you're working with students. You're trying to do the work with them. Is that it's hard to put that in a textbook or to even through simulation in class teach someone how to do that.
We try to put it into our podcast.
Yeah, we try to put it into our podcast, we still, even as much as I love the stuff we put out, nobody's gonna be able to just listen to all the House of EdTech or all of HiTech podcasts and walk in on day one and go, cool, I'm an awesome teacher.
It would certainly be helpful if you went back, you the listener, and downloaded every episode you've never listened to.
Please do.
I mean, I support that decision. You should all do that. Actually, never mind. You'll become a great teacher. Just go do that.
Exactly. This is the silver bullet. We have it.
Silver bullet. We got it. But that experience, like I remember that when I did a lot of my work outside of teaching here for the last couple of years and then started getting back into it. And I remember like I had all the theory and all the stuff and come in and you get into day one with those students in the classroom and you go, oh cool, this is like totally useless. When that student asked that question, I didn't plan for at all. So I think there's something to that. There is kind of this art of learning how to interact. I mean, we talk about it all the time on the podcast. I will say hate. I hate when I'm sitting in a room with someone and there's kind of this perception that like if you just do 1, 2, and 3, a human being will learn. And we're so complex. Like people will learn in different ways. We're different. And sure, there's things we can do to help people learn. But I think there's something to that of like, there's this art of working with another person and helping them along a path, learning something and being something different from the start of your class to the end of your class. That I think only comes from doing that.
That's where being a teacher is like being an electrician. You're wiring something, and then all of a sudden you hope that you've done it right, and then when the lights come on, you know you did it.
I have a couple of questions for my electrician, so I'm not so sure that's my favorite metaphor. But I get you.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your guys' podcast for a second.
Yeah.
So, again, you guys are part of the Education Podcast Network. From time to time, your bumper appears at the beginning of these episodes. It probably appeared at the beginning of the episode this is in right now. Woohoo! So, yes, woohoo. For somebody who's never listened to your show, I have 2 questions. One, if they're a K-12 educator, can they get value from your show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's not only the tools, right? I mean, seriously, we are promoting sometimes K-12 tools to higher education faculty. We're making the case of like why something that might seem elementary could have value for some. So there, you already know the value, but it's a good tool. You may not know about it. Besides that, every single one of our conversations is about education. Yes, our audience, our learners is a little different, right? I will not say a kindergartner should be taught like a 21-year-old. Sometimes the skills...
Sometimes they line up.
I was going to say, I've had a few circumstances where I'm like, you know what that
You're in
K-12 teacher
timeout.
told me, that worked perfectly with this 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Hold on. I've had days where I've interacted with my children who are 7 and 11, a 14-year-old 9th grader, and a college student. And if we're going to Venn diagram those age groups, there's some overlap, and there is a central overlap to that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's, I don't know, is there anything else
Well, I think the other thing is, too, we've, especially in the last year and a half, started having more K-12 people on the podcast.
Yes.
Like, we have a couple people we've bumped into here at ISTE that are K-12 teachers that have been on our podcast. Because I do believe that, like, whether you're K-12 or higher ed, while things are different, there's a lot we can learn from each other in both spaces.
Wait, you mean we can collaborate?
Yeah, I know.
Shh.
Don't use the C word.
Did I say that too loud?
Don't tell all our faculty because that might scare them. But there's a lot to learn in both areas, and I think for sure there's stuff that carries over.
My second question would be, again, for somebody who's never listened to your show, yes, there's value. Is there an episode that you either together are particularly proud of that would be a great place for the first-time listener? Or maybe you each have an episode like, hey, start here, go check out this
Why don't you go first? I got one in mind.
Okay, I kind of hope I pick yours. No, we early on, actually, still in season 1, we did 2 episodes on how to pick an app and how to like evaluate apps.
Yes.
And I still love going back to those episodes because I think like we've learned a lot even in between then and there, but they really working on those episodes helped for Will and I crystallize kind of some of the steps that we use. And I think that was helpful. I'm going to throw in just one other one.
All right.
We also did one recently. Is this the one you're going to pick?
We'll see.
Okay. Is higher ed dead? We have a lot of opinions on this as people in higher ed, and there's been a lot of conversations.
That's episode 101 as I look at it on my screen.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Chris.
I would recommend digging into that episode. I think we really hit a stride in some conversation there about, and we want to keep coming back to it because there's a lot to discuss about what higher ed has to offer right now and what also needs to get blown up a little. And we talk about that.
Spoiler alert, I have a very strong opinion on that one, so tune in for 101. No, episode 100 for me was actually a really important moment. It's our launch of, hey, holy crap, we did this, 100
Hold on,
episodes.
I want you to say the title.
The Extravacanva.
There you go.
It was our Extravacanva event. We do love Canva. Canva is how Josh makes all of the graphics for our episode, but it was also our first episode. Our very first was talking about Canva, and so we came back that we wanted to have this symmetry for episode 100. And to me, it was just celebratory. I mean, we've been doing this as a hobby, Chris. Like, we just love having these conversations, love talking to these people, love being in this environment, and it's given us a lot of space to create and feel that vibe, that artistic energy, you know? So 100 for me was like, I don't know, fireworks. It was just like a celebration again of the fact that we're doing this.
See, that is a big deal because episode 100, that's like podcaster graduation.
Yeah.
You have graduated. Now you're earning, as you march to 200, then you get your doctorate in podcasting.
Wow. Do you
Yes.
give these out? I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I didn't know this.
You know what?
came
I
with
should start selling diplomas. Why not?
I mean, we do.
I
it in
wouldn't be the
higher
first
ed.
diploma mill.
How do we get the pink Cadillac, you know?
That's a lot of episodes. Now, real quick, as we're talking about this, you guys We're recording this in the end of June 2023. You've got 104 episodes available. You've shared a couple episodes that people should start with. Can you tease any upcoming episodes here in summer 2023, fall 2023? What type of content are you guys looking forward to creating?
Yeah, so it's actually launching tomorrow. We are starting an opening AI series. It's going to be a 5-week series on talking about AI, and we're super excited. It's Will and I sharing our opinions on AI. Both him and I have used it at different times, but we also have a handful of guests from, there's going to be a company in there called My School AI, and their vision for how AI can really help instructors is super cool. We even dig into stuff like, is AI going to replace teachers? Spoiler alert, we don't think so.
That episode's with Joel
Spoiler,
Cooperstein.
me either.
So that launches tomorrow. Opening AI series. The first episode is we're talking about ChatGPT. So demystifying ChatGPT.
What is ChatGPT?
Have you heard of this thing?
What is this thing?
I know. Has anybody heard about it? I don't. Ironically, throughout that whole series, ChatGPT is never an app that we're actually recommending as our app section.
Really? I've done whole episodes about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got it in
done too,
there,
but we felt like it was like making Zoom our app right now would be like the same thing.
Here's the thing. I waited. I got exposed to ChatGPT like it was some disease. I was exposed to ChatGPT.
But isn't it?
In the beginning of December 2022 through one of my college students who said, hey, Nessie, check this out. So he showed it to me on his phone. I was like, huh. Went home, signed up for an account. I pay for it now.
Okay.
And
Didn't take long.
but I waited. I waited to do an episode on it so that way I could play with it. Whereas in that same time period, people were writing books about it.
Yeah.
Which, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast. Anybody who's written a book since ChatGPT came out, I have some skepticism.
It's already
About
out of
the
date.
book.
Well, I mean, the book was out of date the day one they started writing it.
Especially if you wrote a book about AI.
Yeah.
And again, I have friends who listen to this and friends who have written books about AI. I'm a skeptic.
There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, skeptics actually push others to go further and to be better. I'm a skeptic, so I love that. We've also got a lot of guests coming up. We've actually had a great run here of just getting other voices involved in the conversation. We started this conversation off by saying that we lift up some EdTechs, right? We try and get small companies, some big companies, and not sponsors. It's not about money, right? We try and get good things out there for people to learn about. Well, we're also kind of pivoting and focusing in on the educators doing it too, which is not a bad change or a change for us. It's just like we had to get our podcast going ourselves for a long time, and now we've got voices who want to join us. We're very excited for that. So like opening AI is happening today, tomorrow, this coming weeks. It's great, 5-episode series. And then seriously, I'm looking at the lineup. We've got like 8 people lined up for interviews that'll be coming out over the rest of the summer.
And the podcast it's a microcosm of what we talked about. It evolves, it changes over time. And, this show has changed over time.
Yeah.
Right? Very interview heavy in the beginning, long stretch without a lot of interviews. And then I come to an event like this, I'm talking to people face to face, having some great conversations.
Yep.
Kind of scratches that itch. But again, it's your show. You do what you want to do.
Exactly.
People who resonate with it, they're going to be with you for the ride.
Yep.
Those who don't, keep downloading the episodes.
We thank you.
Use the sponsors, the promo codes, the whole
Play
thing.
it on double speed. It's
Once
fine.
we get them, please use the sponsors codes.
Whatever you want to do. It's good.
Nice. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or share?
The HiTech Podcast was an outlet for us. It helped our wives get us out of the conversation of work all the time. It's now most of the time instead of all the time. But it's one of those outlets. I think the thing I'd share and leave you with is like, hey, if you're thinking about doing this, you're listening to us right now, and you're like, oh man, do they do this? Actually, check into our website, check into some of our resources. We put some stuff out there. I bet Chris has as well. Just get started tomorrow. You could podcast right now. This has been, even if we never make $1 or we only lose, so far we've only lost money on this venture, right? It's been worth it. We have learned so much. We've met so many great people. We've got to be engaged in a community that's all trying to do this as well. And that's the thing I love about it. Anyone can do it. That's the democratic approach. I grew up with radio. My father loved radio. Radio was always on. My father was a radio talk show host. I loved that. But that had a barrier. There was distinct issues around it with money and financing too. That's why he didn't keep doing it, right? Podcasting, you don't need the fun equipment. The fun equipment's awesome. But
We're looking at it.
it's, dude, Chris's setup is awesome. But yeah, give it a shot.
And this is
Podcast
just a
great.
portable setup. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It's if I could leave with anything else, it's I hope you check us out. If you're in education, you want to learn more about tech, check out both Chris and us. And but yeah, if you're the thing I think we're trying to encourage people with and stuff is if you want to do this yourself, it's not that difficult. So give it a try. Will and I started with a random headset and just started recording ourselves. And as Chris says, using technology isn't difficult. You can use it, and it's not that hard, and people will engage. I was surprised when we were recording horrible audio, like bad audio, and we were still having people like really digging stuff off of what we were posting on the podcast. At the end of the day, the thing I love about podcasting is it's just so easy to put it out there and for people just to engage with it.
Based on what you just said, if people were still digging in, that means the audio wasn't as bad as you thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh, I am my own worst critic.
Absolutely.
On audio. Oh my gosh.
I mean, there was one episode, it was bad, but that was only because my computer decided to switch which mic it was, and I sounded like I was in the distance, but it's fine.
I mean, as we're talking, I mean, I have 225 episodes out. I still will apologize for the first 224. Right? Again,
That's
not
good.
formally
I like
trained.
that.
This is a labor of love. Where can people get to your podcast and connect with the two of you?
All right, so we've got HiTechPod.us. That's our website. If you head over there, it's HiTechPod.us. I got you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not us, but it's
it's
whatever.
not
This
us.
is a long, ongoing debate on the podcast.
From our website, you can find our
I
socials.
say .us.
Yes, thank you. See about him.
It's fine.
Whatever, it is what it is. You can find our socials. You can find our connection to the Education Podcast Network, which we love and adore. You can find every single one of our episodes. We are on YouTube and Twitter primarily. You can find us on those two platforms at HiTech Podcast. That's I think that's the short and sweet of it. We are on LinkedIn now. That's growing.
Yeah.
Still at HiTech
And what
Podcast.
about your Twitters or your Instagram? People want to connect personally.
Yeah, at Twitter, at SwartzJ49. Hit me up there.
I am at Willingworthy. Isn't that nice? William Illingworth, at Willingworthy.
Perfect. Guys, thank you for a few minutes here on the House of EdTech, and thank you guys for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the House of EdTech. If you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe or follow the podcast so you can continue to make it a part of your anytime, anywhere professional development. I also want to thank this episode's sponsor, the Institute for Education Innovation. Make sure you go to their website. Link is in the show notes. Check out the 2023 Soup's Choice Awards. And if you are the creator of a great EdTech product or service, or you know somebody who is creating something awesome, tell them to go check out the Soup's Choice Awards. Maybe we'll all be together in December. We shall see. Now, if you want to make the most of the podcast, be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. You can find all the links and resources that I talk about and that Josh and Will and I talked about. Go to chrisnessy.com/228. I genuinely enjoy hearing from you, and I value your feedback and your perspectives. A lot of podcasters don't even bother to invite you to contribute to the show or ask for feedback. They just put it out there and they're talking at you. Well, I want to talk with you. So send me your thoughts, your questions, whether it's about this episode or any episode that you've listened to. Feel free to connect with me. You can email me, feedback@chrisnessy.com, or leave a voicemail. Go to chrisnessy.com/voicemail, and your input, your ideas, you will help me make a better show and improve the podcast. So please connect with me because I'm eager to connect with you. And if you know somebody who would benefit from listening to the show, I really, really encourage you to share it with them. Spread the word on social media or through word of mouth. Your efforts will help me reach a wider audience, and that means more people will get value from the show. Thank you in advance for helping me expand the House of EdTech. Lastly, I want to invite you to become an awesome supporter. If you get value from the content, I would love it if you did that. I'm incredibly grateful for the ongoing support from the following people: Jeff Herb, Peggy George, Dan Gallagher, Mike Messner, Matt Miller, Brian Carpenter, and Aaron Cummings. Maybe you'll be the next awesome supporter. If you find value in the show, go to chrisnessy.com/awesome. The next episode of the podcast is going to be number 229, and I'm going to talk a little AI in education with Alana Winnick. Got to talk to her at ISTE as well. It's going to come your way on August 6th. Until next time, thank you for learning with me. Remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.